Okay, here we go. We're all set?
We have no light though. There we go.
Okay, we are on the air. This is the Planning Commission meeting to be held on Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Would you call the roll?
Alderperson Kastner.
Present.
Steve Rogers is excused. Brian Weiss.
Present.
Don Carlson.
Present.
Zach Marshall. Brock Krenz.
Present.
Mike Braswell is en route, excused for the moment. Daniel Wojak.
Present.
Mayor Knightsky.
Present. Danielle can vote until Braswell shows up, right?
Yes.
Okay. Item 2, and entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Uh,
Second.
By Mr.
Carlson.
Carlson, second by Alderperson Kastner. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, discussion regarding last common council meetings.
Public hearings were held for Qdoba and Smoke World. Both proposals were approved by the Common Council.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is a certified survey map for proposed lot split at 5408 South 43rd Street, submitted by Lori Krakowski, the owner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a kind of a reconfiguration lot split combination proposal. So the current lot is highlighted in the yellow, and what they would be doing is giving this portion of their lot to the city for right-of-way uses to line up with the property lines to the north. This area is slatted for future right-of-way. It's truly not right-of-way today, but the city identified and historically has identified plots of land where there could potentially be a layout for roads, street right-of-way, and this portion right here would be dedicated to right-of-way. To the north is dedicated right-of-way, and then this red future right-of-way kind of, in the big picture, creates the potential for a subdivision and a large overhaul subdivision in the future, but for the time being, this area would be dedicated to the city for right-of-way, and then an outlot basically would be created here, and a lot, so three lots, 1, 2, and 3 would be created. Staff recommends approval, and this could go to the Common Council next week, February 22nd.
Okay. We'd previously approved a lot inside that.
There's been a lot of, CSMs in this area.
Okay. I'd make a motion to approve the item as presented
I'll second.
by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along to item 5, a certified survey map for proposed reconfiguration of 2 parcels located at 5164 South Mallard Circle and 5200 South Mallard Circle, submitted by Mark and Rita Wisniewski, owners.
So this is one neighbor giving some land to another neighbor. There's
Are
a...
they giving it away? Or
Sorry, bad term used there, but reconfiguration of the lots. There's a sale going on here, and before the sale is finalized, one of the neighbors asked if they could purchase a little bit of their land for reconfiguration. So staff recommends approval. It could be expedited to the Common Council meeting next week.
Make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Items 6A and 6B is a special use review for Tinsmiths of Greenfield, a proposed automotive glass tinting business located at 3320 West Howard. This is also a site plan review. Are you, somebody here for that?
I don't think so. So this is a new business occupying this building, which requires a special use review. They would provide automotive glass tinting repair, some general automotive repair business services. Proposed hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 10 to 8. Previously, this has gone through some special use review procedures in the past, and the Plan Commission has allowed for the owner at their request to keep the dumpster in the building rather than construct a refuse enclosure, and they have never kept it in the building. As you can see, it's sitting outside, and so at this time with this applicant, given the bad history of not keeping that inside the building, staff's recommending construction of a refuse enclosure. The landscaping was also not installed, so we're recommending that the enclosure construction and landscaping be installed by June of 2023. Otherwise, staff recommends that the item be expedited to next week's Common Council meeting.
And make a motion to approve with those caveats. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Commissioner Weiss, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. So, Mr. Braswell was here late this evening. At about 6:06, he now can vote as a permanent member,
I think if you're, once you're not here, that you already gets bumped to the next person.
We
maybe
should.
To vote, yeah. I think
think-
that should be standard operating
Or take
procedure.
Or they could take turns.
we could vote. Do you think Mr. Braswell should be able to vote?
I'd say yes.
That's the rule. We're just messing with you, man. We were gonna wait, but just kidding. All right. Item 7, site, 7 and 8, I think, can probably be taken together, right? Site and architectural plans for Cafe Hollander, a proposed restaurant to be located at the local at 84 South, 8415 Sur Lane, submitted by Scott Yauch, doing business as Cobalt Partners. Item 8 is the same except for the Feisty Loon, and that address is 8515 Sur Lane, submitted by Mr. Yauch of Cobalt Partners.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So everyone's aware we're talking about the remaining corner at 84 South Development, and the proposal submitted by Cobalt in partnership with Lowlands is to construct 2 different restaurant buildings and have an interior event space in the middle between the 2 restaurants. So Cafe Hollander is the eastern restaurant and Feisty Loon is the western restaurant. The Plan Commission in the future will review the interior outdoor event space. I believe Lowlands is still detailing and collaborating with their architects about the design for this area. So right now we'll just focus on the 2 buildings. And so Cafe Hollander, inside seating for almost 250 people, and outdoor seating for approximately 86. Their hours of operation will be 8 a.m. to closing somewhere between 10 and midnight. Every day they'll offer breakfast, lunch, dinner, and brunch on the weekends. The Feisty Loon, inside seating for approximately 214 people, outdoor seating for about 84. Their hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 11 to close. They will offer lunch and dinner, and then on the weekends they'll be open a little earlier, offering brunch, lunch, and dinner, open 9 a.m. to close. The timeline goal is to begin construction this spring and staggered openings starting late 2023 or early 2024. So this is the site layout. Cafe Hollander again on the east, Feisty Loon on the west, 2 refuse enclosures, and then a shared parking space. So 249 spaces will be provided, 280 are required. Again, this is an overall comprehensive site plan that was reviewed by the city in 2015 with the 84 South development. There's also shared parking with Outback Steakhouse to the west. And also special use, we're not doing public hearings for the restaurants. When there was an extensive public hearing process and involvement originally, that restaurants were always laid out to be part of this development at this corner. So this is a mixture of materials that will be used on the buildings. I'm not going to go into detail. I kind of did in the staff report, but a variety of materials. You got masonry veneers, stones, bricks, fiber cement panels, natural wood siding, and metal trim and framing around the windows. They're both very great looking buildings. So this is the eastern facade along 84th Street of Cafe Hollander. I'm just going to flip through so you can see all of the elevations. So this is the front and the interior of Cafe Hollander, interior of the courtyard outdoor space area. So you can see the outdoor seating is identified on the west side of the building. And then we have brick, false 2-story buildings. But as it was written in the staff report, kind of, trying to depict buildings that you would actually see in Holland. And then this is the northern end facing the parking lot. So I did talk with the architects about the slightly blank wall, but there is intent to probably do some sort of signage or mural to break that up. We don't want the back of the buildings to look like the back of the buildings. You know, everyone is parking here. It's the first thing they're going to see when they come visit the site. So this will be dressed up in some way, shape, or form to be determined, but that was discussed. Tulips. So the Feisty Loon building, a lot of glass on this building. You got the V-shaped roof line. So this is south facing Layton Avenue. This is the back of the building. So you can see the elevation originally submitted here on the bottom, and after working with the architect, we got a little bit of variety and articulation to the north side of the building, breaking up that kind of longer blank wall space. They were very receptive to the suggestions. And again, there's to be determined some way to break up this wall here, which is their outdoor event kind of bar area that we'll see more details about in the future.
Is that supposed to be wood siding?
Yeah, that's natural wood siding, yeah. And then you have the western entrance to, the main entrance to the Feisty Loon restaurant. And then this is the interior courtyard event space. Again, this final design will be reviewed by the Plan Commission at a future date. So we're recommending that this be expedited to the Common Council meeting next week. We'll work with staff, they agreed to work with staff on the refuse enclosure materials and on a landscaping plan, and again, future submittal of the outdoor event space to the Plan Commission.
Great. Questions, comments?
Looks great.
Yeah.
On the condition number 1, Christie, sub D, the landscape plans be reviewed and approved by the city forester. Can that be like E at a future date? I think.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Sure, yeah, on condition 1D,
1B, yep.
D as in dog.
Yes, okay.
That landscape plan is not prior to issuance of permit, but I think at a future date.
Yes.
Sure.
I think that was the intention, okay.
Yeah, the parking lot's already approved, actually.
Correct,
And we're just talking about the that doesn't make sense that we'd want it now anyhow.
right, yeah, I just wanted to be sure. The way it was written, I think D is, yeah.
Yep, we can work with that.
All right, and I have to say happy Valentine's Day to Maritza.
Did he say happy Valentine's Day to you?
I think I don't know.
To all of us?
To
Everyone?
Dan?
All of us? Was it a blanket?
To everybody?
Well, thank you.
Aw,
I know,
what a nice thing to say.
I know.
Yeah. So the only thing, I mean, Alderperson Kastner pointed out a hanging sign along Layton, which I think is really cool, and it could probably be bigger. We certainly want this corner to be energized, so I know that all of the sign stuff isn't here quite yet. But certainly there's a desire, I think, for us to really energize the corner to the extent that we can. The wall hanging sign that hangs perpendicular to the building, which is kind of consistent with how things, I think, are in Europe.
Well, they are.
They are, yeah, and other places. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that there isn't any hangups with that. So.
We have a sign code, I think you can exceed it on this kind of building.
Tastefully exceeded.
Tasteful.
It's a very nice project for the corner, so. I'm just waiting for it to be canceled like the last 3.
Oh, geez.
That on Valentine's Day, a hit like that, that's terrible.
Yeah, I know after that heartwarming, I'm actually starting to tear up a little bit. But no,
Is the,
I'd entertain a motion.
I want to
Okay.
question the roof line on a
Make a
feisty
motion to
loon.
approve.
Huh?
I'll make a motion to approve.
By Carlson, is there a second? Yes, they're together.
Yeah.
Carl, you have a question?
I'll
And then
second.
second
I'll
by
second.
Braswell, under discussion, Alderperson Kastner.
Oh, the roof line, is that supposed to be like the wings of a loon?
It is now. Good way to sell it, right?
I could see why it's feisty, because one's bigger than the other. That's all I got.
No,
I have a
Carl, it's
question for
playfully
Scott. Did you bring
nostalgic.
candy too?
It's playfully nostalgic.
It is that too, yes.
That's what it is. It says here, right? Whereas the Buckatabbin is more literal interpretation of an up north supper club. This one is more playfully nostalgic.
The Howard Johnsons used to have that, didn't they?
It is. This is actually going to be, all right. So
Motion
motion was
and a
made and
second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
So internally, just bringing up the idea of, well, we need the landscape plan before we can do this or we can do that. I mean, the goal here is, we understand that the economic times are difficult, that things sometimes can't go in the order which they're intended or they're desired. So staff and us will bend over backwards to see that this thing work, okay? Right. All right, very good, that's it. Welcome to Greenfield, this is very, very exciting.
And we're gonna announce it publicly tomorrow as well.
Awesome. Alderperson Bailey was just here too. He's going to put it in a newsletter, so we're going to be providing pictures
Yes.
for everybody in the neighborhood. Just right, Christie? Yeah, hard cut would be good.
What about
It might,
coupons?
might be helpful.
What about coupons?
Bye. All right.
Thanks.
Item 10. Oh wait, no, 9. Conceptual review for a site layout of Loomis Crossing, a future development in the vicinity of West Loomis Road. The Park and Ride facility at I-894 submitted by Bill Wellman, Scott Yucker of Cobalt Partners. Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that Cobalt's intent is to kind of just get some feedback from the Plan Commission on potential site layouts and wanted to educate the Plan Commission on the restraints of the site for developing the north end. So you can see here that we've got the ATC lines, and there can be no buildings underneath these lines, so it will be constrained to parking only. This is kind of a U-shaped, turning into a U-shaped development. The existing office building is staying. To date, the locksmith parcel is staying. The city will develop the turf, the city park at the northwest corner, and then the grade area is what Cobalt has left to develop. And in the Business Journal, there's an article today about, the intent being some sort of light industrial users obviously unknown. But from there, I guess I'll kind of turn this over to Scott. If whatever else you want to add to the feedback you're looking for from the Planning
Yeah,
Commission.
thank you for putting this item on the agenda. We've got the south side off and running, and thanks again to all the support for the city for helping us get the ground broken on the medical office building. So if anyone's been over that way, you see a couple cranes and a lot of construction. So the south side is really fully underway. So we've turned our attention out of the north side. There's a couple constraints, as Christie said. One, the ATC lines. We did look at relocating that at one point when we were working with potential entertainment use. We did an elaborate study that was an expensive study that concluded that the cost to do that would probably approach $5 million. So it really doesn't make sense.
Chump change.
Yeah, it bifurcates the parcel, but, we've worked on some layouts that actually work pretty well. Some of the other things so everybody understands is when we acquired, with the city's help, the former DOT parcel, we had to retain 150 stalls, I believe is a number, from, what do we have, 600, 700, they were a bigger number, and today it's barely used. In fact, the freeway flyer is not running there anymore. So we may continue to try to reduce that, obligation to even maintain that parking, but we do need a crash investigation site. So this plan takes all that into account. You'll see just south of the locksmith parcel, one of the things we can do under the ATC lines is park. We just can't build structures. So there's parking under there. So it works pretty well. Some of the other constraints are just where we line up that southern entrance along, where 43rd connects. There's also a requirement to have a certain separation from the off-ramp on Loomis, headed kind of northbound, northwest bound. So a lot of points are fixed. The medical office building that's there today, of course, is assessed at a pretty high value and isn't going anywhere. So that stays. We need to work around that and their parking. So we try to keep a circulation road that's pretty tight around that allows access to the interior for the development. And just wanted to update really the city and get any input from staff. We have been working with staff on a lot of this. And really just see if there's any feedback from the Plan Commission on this.
No Amazon?
For the area, Scott, that's left over, let's see, how big is it as far as acreage?
I think what the area we're showing is 24, 25. The total area over there for redevelopment is about 27 acres, but I think that probably includes the turf site. So plus or minus 24, 25 acres. It's a decent size. It's, the configuration is a little bit challenged, right, because of that area, but I think we've created as efficient of a layout as we can. We need to be sensitive to the neighbors to the east as well.
So got to bring up the locksmith.
The locksmith,
Yeah.
you can, sure.
So I've met with him on a number of occasions, trying to get him to, not be the IKEA store, in the middle of a redevelopment.
Over at Oak Creek, yeah.
Yeah, that house?
Yeah,
and
that
I
house
just-
held out, it's all by itself right now.
Yeah, so you've made efforts to try to acquire that property?
We have made multiple efforts. And we've, the direction from the city, from 84 South to Loomis has always been to treat neighbors and residents fairly. We think we've always done that. I don't know that there's been any complaints on how we've worked with, some of the properties that we've acquired. But we made an offer that was in keeping with all the other offers in terms of economics. And there really was no interest. So it does leave a situation for him where, he can't build on the eastern portion, and he doesn't have a lot of frontage, and access will be very limited there. I mean, it's going to be a challenge, but we've pointed all that out. We've met multiple times, we've made offers, and there's no interest on his part. So we want to proceed, with a development. We can't hold up progress here, so we're, again.
So the DOT, so there's an existing use on the property. The DOT may restrict access to that property for commercial purposes in the future in the event that it was going to be redeveloped, was my understanding. Does that sound right?
I think that's true. I mean, I think the access that's there is probably grandfathered today, but for any change of use, I think that would trigger probably some restrictions. And it's because of its proximity to 43rd Street and the redesign of the bridge and the ramps and so forth. You'll also see, even at 43rd, they're putting in one of those, there's a technical term for it, but you can't come through from 43rd Street. You've got to either, if you're northbound, I'll call it, on Loomis, you can make a left onto 43rd, and if you're southbound on Loomis, you can make a left into the development, but those are the restricted movements there. So all that just makes it more challenging for him for future access. But if he operates as he is today, that works.
I mean, and I just want to, because there were all sorts of things that happened previously with this site, I want to make it very, 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 very clear that we're making every effort to include the owner of that property within this development. At one point, he did not want to be included in the TIF, so if you notice the TIF map, his property is excluded. That was based on what he desired back then.
Has it been
This is
changed?
true.
So, well, there was a meeting, and I loved him. He's a great guy. I mean, seriously, I really love the guy as a human being. But there was a meeting asking why weren't we included, and the reason he wasn't included is because he didn't want to be included. Even with this, I mean, I'm guessing that the ring road, which is what this essentially is,
Right.
would have a much different configuration if his property was included. It would probably make the site more functional, right? But because he's not including it, right, and he doesn't want to be included in the project, to his own detriment, I mean, as far as economic value and gain in the future.
He understands that, right?
I have tried to be as thoroughly direct as I possibly can with regard to that.
Yeah, we have shared this plan with him, and certainly in our view, I mean, what we had offered was significantly more, one, than it's worth, and two, that it would be worth in the future under most any scenario. So And the structure is older, right? I mean, there's no question, it's older, and so, I mean, to redevelop, I just don't know that it can be redeveloped. I mean, maybe what's there can be,
I was driving down, I
Maintain.
think it's Drexel today, and I saw the house right next to IKEA in a large apartment building, and I
Yes,
thought
it's
of a
all, that's
locksmith
right. Yeah.
open for business. So,
Well, we've certainly tried over the course of 2 years at least. I mean, from day one, we've made offers there, and so, yeah, it's not ideal for probably him, and, it'd be a little more efficient for us otherwise, but that's where we're at.
so I was just asked whether I invited him to this meeting. I sent a copy of the staff report to him. I think on Friday. And I just wanted to say this because I don't want there to be any kind of confusion in the future. Tim, below are the links to the upcoming planning commission. Note that Ring Road we discussed that goes around your property is on the agenda as a conceptual item. I can't seem to open this. Why can't I open that? I'm trying to open it up.
There you go.
Here it is. And I just want to be so crystal clear about this. There comes a point of no return financially in these developments once the concepts are approved and engineering design comes into reality. I think we're inches away from that point. I see no reason that the item as presented won't be approved, at least conceptually. I repeat again, I prefer that you not be like that house in front of IKEA that gets built around. As I've told you and everybody, I think it makes sense to include your property in the overall development. Ultimately, the decision for your property is up to you. The window for that decision is beginning to close quickly. I'm just trying to be so transparent and so direct about this. It is his property. He can do with it as he pleases. The value of that property is probably at its peak right now. Based on the numbers that I saw, it's substantially higher than the value. In the future, if this ring road gets developed as it's contemplated, the value of his property declines. I just want the record to be thoroughly clear about that.
Well, and that's why we're here too, right? We don't want, I mean, we want to treat him fairly, but, we want to move forward with the development, right? There's a lot of increment to be created there and planning, and so, once we lock in, we need to, as the mayor said, there's no point of return at that point.
Well, has there been a thought that if you start, say conceptually gets approved and it goes through, that he may have a change of heart? Then what?
He could. I think it becomes too late for us, though, because if he wasn't there, we would probably tighten up that ring road. We wouldn't go as far to the east. That's probably what's in it for us. There's not a lot, but if we didn't do that, we probably could shift some of that parking, is what we'd end up doing.
I don't think that most average, and actually when I met you on Nextdoor once, right? We were talking
I don't know
about.
what you're talking about.
So Mike Braswell was very critical of the mayor and what the mayor was.
Still am.
And he still is, right?
I'll go back to that voting privilege.
But the point is that most people on the street don't recognize how absolutely expensive this stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're engineering and you're designing and you're figuring out the stormwater calculations and the drainage and all of that stuff, right? It costs a lot of money, like tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars kind of money.
Yeah.
So to develop this ring road the way that it's currently set, right? And now 6 months later, when we're about to or someone's about to let contracts on this project, he says, oh, well, no, I want to include my property now. Yeah. It's probably too late. Because at that point, it wouldn't be unreasonable to deduct the cost of redoing it from the purchase price.
Right.
There's only so much money, truthfully. And right now, that money is incredibly tight with high interest rates and supply chain issues. And timing and time is money, right?
The road in itself, but marketing of the land that you could find
All
potential
of that
users.
stuff, the size and layout of the buildings, what kind of uses, right? All of that stuff.
Yeah, it drives a lot of things for us. That's
So
why.
I just want to, and I don't want to come across as I'm trying to pressure somebody. I wish he would make up his mind. It seems as if he has, and that's okay. But I want there to be, complete informed, was it informed consent?
I
or
think
something?
there's been enough time.
I just
that
want to
has
be so
gone by
perfectly
that
clear about
it's,
that. And it's
Yeah.
not a game. This is
Right.
no cat and mouse kind of thing. This is what it is.
We don't want to have the city picketing in front of the locksmith.
Well, that happened once to me and, at that site. So I'm not real excited about that. So I want to make sure that there's no room for any conspiracies or anything like that. This is what it is,
Wasn't it
publicly.
like a Count Dracula kind of thing? Wasn't it like a Count Dracula kind of thing?
It was really bad. And was it 2000, what year was that? 2012? You remember that?
I do remember that.
What was that?
Well, that's why we're here, just
Everybody's
because
show, everybody's
there's some
afternoon
sensitivity.
radio show I was on, and when I was evil and I was taking people's lives.
Wasn't there
livelihoods.
stakes involved, I think?
I don't want to do that again. if I don't have to. We weren't doing it then, for God's sakes.
No.
Yeah, so anyways. Okay.
Well, any other, again, we just wanted to update the
Does
city.
everybody understand?
Mm-hmm.
Completely understand.
Yes.
What we have is, I think that's the best you can do with the site the way it is right now. So
We've
The
tried,
medi-
yeah.
The medical office, you guys don't have, that's not under contract or
No,
anything, right?
No. We talk to them regularly, just to kind of keep them updated as to what we're doing, but, no. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
I will say that this ring has great potential for a lot of different and good development.
Agreed, yeah. I mean, it's the most efficient we could do with, the turf needs to be where it is for lots of reasons.
Yep.
The park and ride can be just about anywhere, but it makes sense to bring it down there because it can be shared parking for the turf.
So I drove through that today. So the 150 stalls
Right.
is a good parking lot essentially for the park. The MCT, Milwaukee County Transit System, MCTS, they used to have, their freeway flyers have been canceled. For the last 3 years, they haven't been running any buses out of this place to Summerfest or State Fair like they had historically. It sounds like the days of doing that are over. I think they contract with a private carrier at the Hales Corners, which is actually the Whitnall Park and Ride. So we're going to probably be reaching out to the DOT to see whether or not we can,
Reduce that.
there were some obligations that we had during Summerfest and State Fair that we wouldn't otherwise have if that agreement was amended. So
What, do you think it's ever gonna come back, or is it like pretty much
I
dead?
don't see Milwaukee County's transit fiscal position changing for the positive.
plus with the
Ever.
Uber and Lyft and,
Yeah,
I don't see it happening.
Uber, Lyft, and actually bars now do it too. so-
Shuttles, yeah.
Oh, yeah, bars are doing a shuttle.
Well, it's not agenda, but we are talking about transit a little bit. There was supposed to be a bus rapid transit line going down 27th Street that was supposed to hook up with Northwestern Mutual on South 27th Street in Franklin.
That might not happen.
Well, so the issue is then, I mean, bus rapid transit isn't designed to take people quickly between Walmart and Pick and Save, right? It's designed to supposedly get people from one place to their employment.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, I think the bus rapid transit system, even for 27th Street, is a little bit shaky right now. And maybe it should be, because bus traffic decreases measurably south of Oklahoma. And by the time you get to Howard, it's like almost gone. So, anyways,
Well, we tried to do the best we could for all the reasons we described, and,
okay. So this is just conceptual review, right?
Yeah, and I got a quick question. So then, is there a thought of what could go in there? Is it,
in the balance, you mean the development area?
yeah, the development area?
Well, I mean, we're looking at business park type uses, I mean, a business park is really the intention. We could probably fit, 250,000 square feet of buildings, so it's pretty good increment. I mean, that was one of the things we looked at way back in the beginning, and then we ended up, with this possibility of what would have been a great entertainment use. So we worked really hard on that. That would have involved relocating the lines as well. But we're seeing strong demand for that. There's not, if you look at all the uses, I mean, retail, there's not retail depth. It's not really an appropriate housing site, so we think business park, job creation. The one thing that is desirable about the site is its access, it's visible, it's central, it's got a lot of density around it for employee, base. So we think there'll be strong demand for that.
Could there be one tenant?
I mean, in theory, sure. Probably multiple though is what we think. I mean, we're not to that point yet, but we've laid out. I mean, the one thing, it would be more than one building, for sure, because of that no build area. And, we can fit a good sized building to the south of that, no build area.
Is it accessible by semis if it goes industrial? It is? Okay.
But when we say that, I don't think we're looking at heavy duty. I think we're looking more at lighter type uses. I mean, there's a lot of these uses now that are kind of flex space. So they've got some element of office, some element of, light, whether it's light manufacturing or assembly or distribution. That's been kind of a successful model right now. Okay, well,
Everybody good?
Yeah.
good. Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving along, item 10, right? Item 10A and B, special use review and site plan review for Faux Viet, which is a tenant at the Asian grocery store on 27th and Grange. You're not related to the grocery store itself, right? Right, so I just want to point out that the site itself is challenging, and you're probably going to go through that, but this is probably one of the best Vietnamese restaurants in southeastern Wisconsin. If you've never had Vietnamese food, it's phenomenal.
I like the full.
Is wonderful.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this is a tenant change. I do believe the applicant is taking over for his uncle, if I have that correct. And so, I don't know if I want to use the word unfortunately, but it does encompass the full site review. And there's historic issues with that. So, but right now, the applicant is not proposing any changes to the restaurant menu or hours. Everything will stay the same. And so the site conditions, there's no site plan provided, but there are numerous site issues. We've got multiple dumpsters not being in the enclosures. The health department has had issues here, garbage, furniture just dumped in I'll call it an alley, but truly it's actually part of the parcel. It just kind of acts as an alley. The waste management trucks have really torn this up over time. And you can just see there's just a lot of problems. There's missing landscaping from 2010 landscaping plan. There's a chain link fence along the west property line that's falling over. It's in disrepair. That alley, the asphalt's deteriorated. So staff's recommending the following be completed by June. Additional or large refuse enclosures, board-on-board refuse enclosures, resurface that back alley area. New fence along the west property line, and as was noted in the staff reports, we hold a bond or, a letter of credit or cash or check for landscaping for commercial businesses in the amount of 125% of their cost estimate. We do require a landscaping company provide that cost estimate, and then after the landscaping is completed, they reach out to us, we give 70% back. Then we make sure it survives Wisconsin winter, another winter, and then a year after that, we fully refund it. We do have our city forester go out there with a landscape plan. That's why a detailed landscaping plan is important for the file. He goes out there, makes sure everything's installed correctly. If it is, we release 100% of the money. Well, we've been holding money for this property for now almost 13 years. We have been trying to get in touch with the owner, who is not the applicant, but the actual property owner, and trying to return it. Well, we can't return it until they actually complete and finish, make sure it's in compliance. So today, after multiple phone calls and emails, Andrew was finally able to get a hold of Sid, the property owner. And he said to Andrew, "Oh, yeah, no problem. I saw your conditions. We'll take care of it." That's the response I have for the record.
So there.
We will have to do a
Going
lot
back
of
to this
follow-up,
very
I think.
challenging Site, the Vietnamese restaurant that's been there has always been
Yes.
I think, a model tenant.
Yeah.
So I don't.
No
think we-
issues with the restaurant, right?
So I mean, I don't think there's any jeopardy with regard to approving the continuance of that special use. with regard to the other stuff, when that restaurant went in, it was a special use at the time, I believe? Sure. And as a condition of those special uses, even though the resolutions weren't as formalized as they are now, there were some requirements with regard to landscaping, the fence, because there used to be a neighbor that lived immediately west of there that would call weekly.
It's residential to the west, yeah.
He's not there, they don't live there anymore.
But it
they
is
moved,
residential,
but,
yeah.
But, so,
And even PetSmart,
So, at some
PetSmart calls
point-
me complaining about this.
yeah, so at some point,
That's-
they're in
Pet
violation
World?
of,
They just went in there.
who, the pet store? What are you talking about? They've been there forever.
Oh, which pets?
No, it's not a pet, it's not a smart or a,
No, that's Pet World.
like the one it was.
They've been there forever. So, or pretty much forever. So I think at some point when it comes to the owner of the building itself, that their special use to operate the grocery store is in jeopardy if they don't comply with the conditions that they agreed to back when when the grocery store was approved. Did I say restaurant? I meant grocery store. Did I say? Okay. So I think that you need to memorialize the conversation that you had today and remind them that their ability to run the grocery store is in jeopardy because they're not adhering to the special use conditions way back when the grocery store was approved.
It's reasonable. They
When
happen
it
all the
comes
time.
to the asphalt in the back, I know our code enforcer has been out there, and I know in a couple other situations that there's been direct outreach to the grocery store that they needed to fix that. When it comes to the garbage that was in the back, there have been some concerns raised with the health department and inspections with regard to some of that stuff. And they need to fix that stuff up, period.
So are those shared dumpsters between the restaurant and the grocery
I'm
store?
not sure which ones are yours.
They're separate, okay,
They're all on the parcel though,
right.
but yeah.
So they really, is the owner the one who's operating the grocery store? The owner of the property?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
I think it's
okay.
one of the same.
Okay.
So you gotta get on them too, right?
I think they do.
I think you probably do. You
Who's
need
your
to let
anchor?
them know that you might have to move if they don't fix this stuff.
Oh, no.
I know you're not
Just
going to
gave a
move,
heart
I'm just,
attack.
and we're being broadcast to 8 billion people right now, so this isn't like.
raised my rent.
Did he?
Oh, wow.
Oh, so he should be able to
Right.
afford to fix it.
So as part of the underlying lease with him, there's probably a lease, there's certain requirements that he has that he's probably not adhering to the best when it comes to the dumpster enclosures and garbage
Yeah.
and keeping the rest of the property the way it's supposed to be.
Would it be a little bit too outrageous to limit the traffic back there and not allow traffic to go back with the thought that they might drag mud onto the city streets?
Probably not, because it's just
That'd be-
gravel and there's no mud back there.
Oh, damn.
But the pet store has some issues too, along the back too, just so you know.
Yeah, I know.
There's some big holes back there.
Is that what this
That pet
little
store is
pool
pretty-
is here?
Isn't it pretty good?
No, I drove,
Oh,
well,
does this go
Up here?
through?
yeah, that goes
Yes.
through there.
Okay.
Right there, there's a big hole. So,
Got it.
like a really big one. So anyways, okay, I'd make a motion to approve the item as presented, understanding that the landlord has certain responsibilities under the existing special use that they agreed to back in 2010-ish, wherever that is, right? In the event that they don't, that they continue to neglect adhering to the terms that they agreed to back then, the city may be forced to partake in additional enforcement action.
I have a question.
Second that motion,
So
no.
the condition was no occupancy permit until we at least get a plan showing this
So
stuff? Do you want it worded that way or not?
Had nothing to do with that.
So you don't want it worded the way it's written? That's what I need clarity on.
So his occupancy, he's just continuing the occupancy that's there,
Okay.
running the restaurant that he's been operating, or his family's been operating forever.
That's what I
When
need
it comes
clarity
to
on.
this stuff, a more forceful letter needs to be directed, communication with the owner of the property, because it's their special use that they had that they're failing to comply with for the overall property, right? This guy as special use has always been good. He's always done what he's supposed to do. Understand that he's tied to the entire property, but the overall umbrella of the property, the owner is ultimately the one that's responsible. A special use is a right afforded to the property owner that flows with the property. Right? He doesn't know.
Are you giving him a time span in which he has to reply?
So this is gonna be a little bit different. I mean, we gotta write a letter saying you better come up to speed with the stuff that you're already supposed to be doing. You're already 10 years too late.
But then what? Okay, so he
But-
doesn't,
well,
right?
then
He's
it's
10
a-
years too late.
So then what happens is there's an enforcement action. The city attorney writes a letter to revoke the special use on the property for their grocery store. That's what happens.
So-
And then they are entitled to due process rights and all sorts of things, and a
Sure.
hearing and all that. That's not stuff we get involved with.
Sure.
And I believe the common council oversees that, but I don't
Yeah,
remember.
but how does that impact him, right?
It
Because-
doesn't, it's not gonna impact him at all.
We're going to take away all conditions and just treat this as an enforcement thing.
Right.
Got it, okay.
But
Yeah,
he
'cause-
still has to keep his dumpster clean, and he's still, but, and you still, right, and your hours of operation don't change and those kinds of things. Nothing is changing from that respect, which was consistent with the original special use that the guy had for that piece.
I think potentially, along with the special use being revoked for the grocery store, the city may look at taking away his too at that time.
I don't think we would do that.
We probably wouldn't, but we could.
Yes.
We
So
probably,
he would lose his grocery store and the tenant.
Well, yeah, because I guess what I'm thinking, and nothing against you, but, right, to impact this, you lose the grocery store, but you lose future tenants, that impacts your money.
we're talking like,
I know, I'm talking hypothetical, and I'm not
Five
saying
steps
anything
forward.
against him, but what,
he's not gonna lose his space.
I'm not
I mean,
saying he is.
no, I know that. We could,
We could, but we're
we
not gonna
could
go that
say
fast.
so this is one of the issues too, is there's an existing special use. This is a special use review. This is a special use review of an existing special use for a tenant in a multi-tenant
you
building.
need to require.
So it'd be
owners
very difficult to take away
to-
his special use, one that he has and one that he has complied with.
Then.
But it goes with the
I
property.
mean, nothing against him, but
It does.
tenant.
The right to,
You know what I mean?
so this
So the
is,
tenant
we
can't
always go
submit
through this, right?
unless
Where
the owner
we're,
comes.
if it's a strip center and there's one unit that's for a restaurant, that doesn't mean the entire strip center gets a restaurant. It means that that 300 square feet or whatever it is gets a restaurant. Right? So that's, when
Because
it
nothing-
follows the
yeah.
land, it's like unit A, which is the restaurant, can continue to be the restaurant. The rest of the special use, which is associated with the rest of the property, is a different special use, kind of. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I absolutely understand what you're saying. I'm just
Which is
saying-
why her doing it with the resolutions is a good thing, because that
Still could.
ties it to the specific thing, right?
And we should get aggressive, because it's been 10-plus years, so.
It's been a long,
Long time.
the property's had some challenges over the course of time that
Yes.
have been significant.
Do we need to start having the owners come to the, when special uses are,
We gonna subpoena them?
You can't force them to come, right?
It was recommended that
Sure.
and he said, I don't need to come.
okay? I guess what I'm, yeah, I don't.
Well, we can't, I mean, so I don't have police powers up here to say you have to be here for the item that's
Yeah,
on the
but-
agenda.
Okay, but then that item on the agenda can also
So this is the problem.
shift until he does come, right?
This is not a good example for being that heavy-handed,
No, it's
Mike is
not.
saying.
I know it's not, but I
So
know.
there are seldom very
Yes,
few
but-
examples of situations where someone who's doing everything that they're supposed to, and by the way, has wonderful food, right? Can't operate his business because somebody else is a jerk about potentially something, and I'm speaking hypothetically, not saying that this guy's a jerk,
Understood.
okay? So that's the challenge, right? We don't have police, this is commentary here, right?
Yes.
We were at a public hearing, public informational meeting last night, and why, with regard to sound barriers and 894 and all this stuff, right? Why doesn't the city do this? Why can't you just make them do this? Because there's laws and there's stuff, and there's ways that we have to do it. That's
Should-
why.
Mr. Mayor,
And we don't
should-
have the ability to, we could, as you say, not approve it, but that would probably be the wrong thing to do in this situation.
So in this case, should we approve 10A but table 10B?
Yes, if we're going to include the entire site as the site
I
plan.
think we should include the entire site as part of the site plan.
So we think that the terms of his existing special use are
Is
cool,
Adequate.
right?
I'll make a motion to approve 10A as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. When it comes to 10B, the site plan relates to the entire site, not necessarily to his
So
tenancy.
then we
and that's it.
make a motion to decline, right?
No, we just
Table
leave it.
it.
We table it. Wait, what does the municipality say that we should do? There was just an article on tabling things. We'd ask it to be placed on the next agenda.
Perfect.
Because if you table
Figure
it.
out the answer to that question then.
Yes.
if we need
No,
to
there was
table.
just this big article about tabling stuff.
Tabling is a problem, because
You
then it
shouldn't
gets stuck on
table
the
it,
table.
you shouldn't table
right,
it,
it's all-
Just move it
because
to
it
next
may
agenda.
not ever come off the table, but if you keep putting it on the next agenda, that's a
Fair
good
enough.
thing.
That makes sense.
It did after I read it, but for years we've been tabling things
Yes,
and
we
without
have.
knowing what.
Was the intent of pushing it forward?
It was the intent, yeah, all right, so that's good. Okay, 11.
Have a list of all the things that were on the table.
Did we?
Clerk's office used to keep that.
Okay.
It's down here somewhere in that pile, I think.
Anyhow, is the motion to adjourn up yet, or am I?
No, it's
have
community
a community
development manager.
Community development.
No report this evening.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I'll second that.
Motion by Carlson, second by,
Hold
before,
on, hold on.
are you seconding it?
No, I
What do you want to do? What are you doing?
want to talk about.
You raise your hand. What do you want?
I want to talk about Spring Mall.
Under Community Development Manager Report, we'll withdraw your motion and second. So we met with the Chicago representative of the owner of the property at Spring Mall. Christie and I, we explained what we'd hoped for and all that stuff. It's my understanding that they have made communications with the developer, which is Cobalt, which had a previous offer on the property, and they are, I don't know, how would you describe it? They're working towards trying to find a solution. So they're talking again. That's all we can hope for, right?
I got one
They're
thing too.
moving into the other building?
What?
That's still the plan.
For what?
Say what?
Myers moving with a new building. I don't even think it's that far.
I can't speak to them.
So we're losing Meyer, thanks.
No, we can't say that. I don't think that's I don't.
Probably not accurate.
So
We
I don't
don't
want to say
know.
in a public meeting that they're staying or they're going, but I'm
Yes.
not sure that they're going anywhere for now. So I think that's all I can
It's
say,
up in the air.
right?
There's-
Is that fair?
There's really no plan at this point.
Right. I think that,
They got bigger problems.
I think something like that, yeah.
So the turf, I meant to ask about that, since we were talking about the little area.
So we had
How's that going?
it's clearly got a logo and it's on the
Yeah.
advertising. We met with someone with regard to cost and pricing and all that stuff, and it's very expensive. And we're working.
Dig it all up and everything? To dig it up or to get it?
Build it.
DPW, your
Well,
favorite.
No, well, so, what we were talking about doing is, I mean, do you have a copy of whatever do you have a picture of the plan? Yeah.
Oh, Tony Hawk was in a Super Bowl
What it looked
commercial
like
though, so
before?
he must.
He was on it. He looks a little older, doesn't he?
There's
He
a,
does. Cool.
I don't know.
Just
Well,
saying.
engineering folders, I don't even know.
You don't have those? Okay.
yeah,
Can we go to the turf.org?
Yeah.
yeah.
I
There's
can
a
show
lot
you
of,
what the plan looks like.
I mean, there are pro skaters out there that they've developed stuff like
Somebody-
this.
Yeah.
Has anyone reached out to Rob Deerdick? That'd be awesome.
So if we can go to the turf.org.
Temporarily closed.
And if you go to design. So if you look at that design plan right there, so you see where that arrow is for her, right there? Those are the existing bowls that
Bowls,
would be
right.
redone and be placed under a building. The exterior is I think it's almost 25,000 square feet of skating surface. So the fact that concrete and steel and everything has gotten extremely expensive has had a pretty impactful impact on the price of the skate. But I don't know, can you go up? Can you show other things? So that,
Conceptual?
well, so we actually have, we have been working with an architect builder, somebody basically who builds retail buildings, to look at this, what's proposed as far as that building goes and how it can be done. A potential building wouldn't have those things jutting out from it, may not have a second floor balcony, so we're looking at kind of value engineering it in some ways, right? But making sure that the product that's there isn't adversely impacted as far as operations go. It needs to be operationally cool, right, and
Yes,
work.
yes.
This isn't something, well, it's like, well, we
can't
wanted
keep up.
25,000 square feet, but we only have 3,000 now. That's not the point. So that's kind of what it would look like, though.
I hope so.
Is there some more down stuff? Yeah, so you can kind of see, and that's the interior of what it would look like. So that's pretty consistent with what it looked like previously. The fencing might
Skated
be,
there, yeah, I skated there as a kid, so.
right? So,
long time.
so is there something, does it go down further, or that's it? So we've been working with Grindline, which is the big skateboard folks, right? We've been working with someone who builds these kinds of structures. We've been trying to make segues in. Most of the concrete work that you see there is kind of stuff that pool builders do. I mean, that's where the
Yeah, that's where the
skateboard kind of
concept came
started
from,
out.
yeah.
So we've been working with kind of specialized people to try to get our costs down and to try to, right? It's expensive, and but we want to figure it out. I mean, this is,
A lot of concrete.
I just applied for a grant with I never get it, but I just applied for a grant with Tammy Baldwin's office, and so we're trying to get money, right?
What is the estimated cost?
Well, originally, the estimated cost was about 3.5 million, and now it's double.
And that's for the
That would,
the
that would be.
the nice looking one.
If there was $7 million, it would cover pretty much everything. The parking and the utilities and all that stuff are covered through the developer, right? So when you see the park and ride, we're
Shared park.
saving money by having the shared parking there, right? That the developer is responsible for. The utilities that would be feeding this are essentially feeding the entire development. So we're jumping on board with some of that stuff. When we were at Conkle Park, the shelter and stuff that we put in and the amp house, the expensive part of that wasn't so much the building itself. It was getting the sewage and the water and all that stuff to those buildings. That was a substantial cost. So a lot of those costs are sort of shifted and deferred elsewhere. But this has gotten way more than we were hoping. So, but if we can get it done, it will be the coolest thing in the Midwest as far as skateboarding goes. There's nothing around. There's a place in Iowa that's pretty good, but it's not the turf.
And it's not going to be like private. It'd be
So the way that we're hoping that this works, and just remember that everything is fluid, right? As part of the deal with the state, we purchased this 2 acres of property next to the freeway for $1, and we did that so that it would remain a public park. So like Milwaukee County has parks, and they enter into operator agreements with folks that operate certain things. This building, we think, could have an operator that would have like basically a skateboard shop, right, kind of thing, right?
Right.
Which would provide some income to the city and some income to themselves.
And labor, right?
And labor and all that other stuff, right? So but we gotta get the building, but we have had 2 or 3 entities that have expressed a very strong interest in an operating agreement like that.
Good.
you've done grants, but have you looked for like donations?
Yeah, so, we want to, one of the, so if you look at Hales Corners right now, this Allison Dudek ice rink that they had, right? The worst, it's a double-edged sword, right? You know, they've been working on that for a really long time. I think over, is it a decade? Does that sound right?
That does.
Gotta be close to that.
Right? So you create a plan like this and say, well, we're gonna have so much money and then we're gonna raise the rest and we're gonna do this, right? And then people start giving you money and then you can never raise the rest. And then what do you do with the money, right? So the difficulty is unless you have huge donors, and those donors usually have agreements, so, you know, it's like, I'm pledging this amount of money in the event you reach this milestone, that kind of thing.
Yep.
That's a good thing, but the $20 here and the $100 there, and even though it's all good money and it could all, I think that kind of fundraising would probably go better towards an amenity at the park, once the park is in place. There's all sorts of things, you know, you want kind of like, you probably had a turf card, I'm sure, right? You were a member, and you know what number you were?
I don't remember.
Most people can tell, I was 74, I was
Yeah.
310. You know, there's this idea that there should be some other things here to recognize the old members and the new members and cards and I mean, so there will be no shortage of opportunity to continue to raise money for this park, to make it even better. But the goal right now, I think, is just to get it, we gotta get this thing going,
Get the bones in.
right?
Yep.
So, as, you know,
So cool.
Do you think eventually they could get the Olympic trials here? And maybe tie
Yeah,
in
so-
with that federation or whatever they call it?
So one of the things that we've been trying to do at this site too is and this site, the picture down there where it shows all those trees, that's parking, right? Those aren't trees that are gonna be there. I don't know why they did that. It looks really nice, but that's
That's nice, but
parking.
it's not reality.
But the reality is if we could turn this into the kind of skate park that it is, and we could, you know, there's the idea that Mountain Dew and some of these other,
Hold events like they've done
they
in downtown.
they have tours,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And this would be an awesome place for that kind of tour.
Maybe some.
We could couple it with Conkle Park, right? I mean, there's all sorts of, we could set things up at Conkle in the farmer's market with the ramps and all that stuff. And we could have this as either ancillary or part of that whole thing.
Scott wouldn't be happy.
We need some hotels then, eh?
I think that, you know, Scott or Cobalt, I think they,
That's Scott, the others.
which Scott? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't, it's so, we need to, so everybody's like, why are you spending so much time on this? Why are you wasting why are you wasting your time? Oh, can't you just, why don't you build a sound barrier instead of some skateboard park or something? One, we don't build sound barriers. I mean, I hear that stuff, right? So in order for Greenfield to have a place in the world, right, we have to have something that's unique to Greenfield. I don't have Lambeau Field, and I don't have Miller Park, and I don't have, I don't have any of that stuff.
Maybe we could do something similar to the Pettit National Ice Center and, where the.
Well, we try, so you guys and we're kind of drifting here, but under Community Development Manager Report, there was talk of having an ice skating rink here, right? And financially, it just didn't work. I mean, that was really the issue, right?
It's a money pit.
It's, so what I was told is the best person, the most profitable ice center is by the third owner of it. Because by then
All the bankruptcies have gone too.
or whatever it is, right? Right, or the foreclosures or whatever, right? And that's not, and I wish we could have that, right? But this is the closest thing that I can think of worldwide to an institution that the city of Greenfield can be very proud of having. And maybe I'm all wet, or we're all wet, I don't know.
I hope it's
Still has to be a parkland or public use.
It
so.
still has to be a parkland and public use, and
The mini golf, have you heard anything on that?
as I understand, the mini golf is under contract by someone who wants to continue it in its role as a miniature golf course and wants to expand the offerings and to do really cool things. And I don't want to get into who it is yet, but it's like a Bayview kind of guy who seems to be well capitalized, has strong business acumen, and really wants to make the place cool. We're working.
He's expanding? Is he gonna expand?
We're working, he's working with Jeff, and I don't know if he's working with you or with Jeff and Scott to integrate the miniature golf course a little bit into Conkle Park. When we created the TIF, the Meyer TIF, which expires when, I don't remember.
That's a while.
Not that long.
4, isn't it? Is it
Not that
next year,
long.
2025, right?
7,
Is it that far?
27? 2 years out. So as part of that TIF, we had facade improvements and grants and those kinds of things to enhance the area. So we're looking at ways, and because the Honey Creek did some serious stuff there, we're looking for ways to provide, grants and TIF assistance
That
there.
entire corridor too.
The entire court, right?
Yeah.
It's not just that property. So, but there's only a couple of years left of that. And that would be a good thing. I think most people will be very happy when that's done. I think the person that wants to do it, if it goes through, and it sounds like it will, there was an accepted offer, that it'll be a good thing.
Good.
And it'll be a kind of a public-private partnership kind of thing, where, which is, I think, the good thing, right? We don't have, I don't have any more employees, but, so that's a good thing, I think. I don't know, we'll see.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, by Carlson, second by Weiss, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.